Hey YouTubers. Uh, this is like the 75-hour update. Actually, I have 75 hours on. I'm sorry, I have 78 hours on mine. I went down to Mount Wood, and Dallas is still at 66 because she didn't go down to Mount Wood. She went to school. I did get her new tail light on. Don't order them off of Amazon. The one that lights up, I'll show it to you later. But they're junky. So uh, anyway, you notice I did some painting on the old girl. I had a little rattle on my front end and started disassembling it. And there's no oil. I mean, any grease. I mean, I guess there's no grease in China anywhere. I mean, I guess they can't find it. I mean, it's probably some kind of UN trade sanction or something. I don't know, but they don't ever grease anything. But you notice I put everything and painted the rusty spots, which around these brackets, and just ah horrible. Anyway, I got that side done, and I was going to put this one together, and I thought, you know what, I need to show you this. Now, the upper A arm has a replaceable, non-greasable, ball joint in it, which that's just fine. There's like rubber bushings in there. You can tell the bolts is kind of rusty, so all of them is going to get grease. Um, I think on this side, both of them, upper and lower ball joints was loose. On that side, the lower ball joint was loose. And then these tie rod ends is loose. Now, everyone says tighten everything up. Well, it's like they're lazy and they can't tighten stuff up, because this is a perfect example. When you get these, the outer ones are off, and you gotta turn the spindle out and put them on. These are the ones that I put on at 0 hours, when I just got it. They're still tight. The ones that was in here was loose. So I took and greased them all up real good and tightened them up like a human being should be able to tighten a freaking bolt. But anyway, I did run into, let me get this tire out of the way. These uh, bolts for the control arms. Yeah, they're kind of starting to get a little rusty. And the boot for the lower one is actually broke. There's supposed to be a little ring that actually is supposed to hold that up tight, which I cannot find that now. But anyway, so I don't know how good that's going to actually be. But the lower one is the issue. Okay, so this is the lower. Let me get my camera on. Yeah, there's a little bit of play there, and it's all rusty because they don't have any grease over in China. And these are sealed, on the bottom anyway, which is bad because water gets in the top and it sets in there, and they're welded in, which I love that little. Just left the metal run down there. Anyway, so I'm re-greasing these as best as I can, and I'll have to keep them greasing. Hopefully they'll last because, well, you can see what condition they're in. And like I said, there's a little play in them. The other side, when I got it together, there was no wobble in the wheel or anything like that. It seemed to be fine. I think I took care of my rattle. I think all my rattle was in the inner tie rod ends. But yeah, these things are loose. And when they're loose, it can rattle in this hole. I thought the holes might be wobbled out, but they're okay. Oh, here's a picture of my brakes. I was telling you that they were wearing in. Now they wore in. They wore in pretty good. But see all that dirt that gets in there? Yeah, they're getting down there. I probably got another trip or two, maybe another 10 hours on them. My one cable on the other side, I had to tape it up because must have rubbed on something, even though it's like not touching anything. And Allie's was the same way, and it's the same place, so that's kind of odd. But here's what the under part of a tail looks like, and anything that's black is what I've painted. And you got to take this bolt out to get the shock. The A-arm bolts, they go from front to back on all of them, and you can't pull past this bolt. And I'll take these out just so I could paint them because they're a little rusty. I need to check the mount to this too. I've always had a little bit of rattle in the column. I think it's just because it'll move up and down a little bit. But anyway, I got to check that out and see. Got to grease everything up and put it back together. I was wanting to mount the shock in the lower hole, and that would actually, I had this one mocked up like that, but the side of the shock rubbed on the upper part of the bracket when it's in the lower hole. So I guess I was wanting to, because that would lower the front end a couple inches, and I thought that would be cool, but not so much because they rub. So I thought I might be able to bend that out of the way, but better off not to try to make something work. But anyway, that's how the front brakes are made. There's really no adjustment on them, so whenever your things get out, that's pretty much the one that asked me about them. And I thought you could take this loose and cheat it a notch or two and get a little bit more brake out of them, but that's probably about it. There's really, you can buy this whole brake thing, but now I found on Amazon these brakes are like $7, so it'd be like $7 for each side. It's $14, and that's free shipping. I mean, that's pretty cheap. I mean, you can't complain about the two brake pads and springs. I mean, so all you gotta do is pop them out and put the new ones in. I mean, it's $7, and that's free shipping. That's all, everything to your door. So the back ones are $6, and the front ones are $7 a side. I mean, so you can't really complain. I checked my wheel bearings in my hubs, and they were both fine and good. I want to probably slap a little bit more grease on them, before I put them back on, but they're good. They catch water. The hubs get a little rusty because I'd wash this and then put it away. But anyway, just wanted to show you about these lower ball joints. I worked a bunch of grease into the other one, and then I put the cap over it, or the rubber, bushing on it. But I filled it up with grease too. So every so often I'm gonna have to dismantle that and put some grease in there. I just wish they'd put a grease fitting on some of this stuff, because the grease fitting underneath, which is typical of the lower ball joints, it'd push grease up through here. Now that means so much for not having to disassemble everything. But it needed some paint too. So if you get one of these, get you some of that. It's funny though. I always thought this was made, because this is like the cheap stuff, but it's made in the USA, which is really cool. I always thought it was like, it was like 96 cents a can. I always thought it was probably made in China too. Some kid on YouTube was complaining about his Chinese four-wheelers. He had all of his problems with it and stuff, which, and a lot of people make comments about it. You're rough with them, which, but I can see that. I can see the kid being rough with it, but at the same time, it's like, that's why I got a four-wheeler. If I can't ride it and go splashing in the mud, and it ain't I used to have it, because that's what it's supposed to do. It's like, getting a book and you're not allowed to read it, or I don't know, can't dig a hole with that shovel. Don't pound anything with that hammer. I'm serious. You get a hammer like this, you can't hit anything with it. Well, that's what it does, But anyway, putting a little work. I just recommend, if you get one of these, you gotta have low expectations, because it's going to do what it's supposed to do and have fun. But don't expect it to be super four-wheeler, because it's 150cc, it's an automatic, it's two-wheel drive. You may do some pushing. Of course, it weighs 300 pounds. So it's a lot easier than some of the big, heavier ones. Like at the old guy's like, why did you go with a two-wheel drive four-wheeler? Because it's cheap. I mean, He was talking about getting an old one, and buying an old four-wheeler is fraught with danger because you don't know. You might get, you know, I've treated this thing pretty rough. It's going to do what it's going to do, or supposed to do. I mean, if it's a hammer, I got to drive in some nails with it, right? If I can't go trail riding with it, it's not worth having. So I'm not being overly rough with it, but I'm having fun with it. And if I got to grease up the front end every once in a while and tighten some stuff up, no big deal. The lower ball joints, I just wanted to show you because you probably really should grease them from the get-go. I also made this bracket for my exhaust back here. I got to mount this up and see where my third hole is, but that's what it's going to be. I cut out 3 of these because 3 of them fit, are crossed on that piece here. So I got 2 extras. Allie's is a little bit different, so I could give you dimensions on this, but yours will probably be a little bit different than so. And then I'll have to tighten up my chain a little bit. Like this, the chains on these are But 75-hour update. I got to clean my air filter too and see how much junk got into that. But kids have tomorrow off, and I need to get some of this stuff done so I can go riding. And then Allie's, I'm going to have to rip the front end apart on it here, sometime later this week and get it done. But I'll just let the paint set up on this, and it takes some time to do that. But anyway, I got to get slather and grease on everything because, like I said, the poor Chinese people don't have any grease over there. And you got to help them out, man. Maybe we can all get together and send tubes of grease over there so they can, when they put this stuff together, put a little bit on this, or and some grease zerks. I got a whole box of them. You think that you can buy grease zerks from Harbor Freight? You think that they'd have them over there, but maybe they're just selling them all and shipping them over here. I don't know, but it's amazing how tightening bolts and greasing stuff would make an owner happier because they wouldn't have to rip this apart after 3 months of use, or they wouldn't have to redo the rear end that's all rusted up. I'm glad I did redo her rear end when I did. I got another video on I think it's called a Taotao rear end swap, and it's switching the rear ends over. But I got all the videos of how I fixed ours, and it shows a little bit more in depth about what I've done to the rear ends. But honestly, if you compare these to like 1990s ATVs, they're a lot similar as far as structure and how they're made and stuff. But anyway, but to me, I don't care. I don't really need a dash on it. I'm thinking about taking them lights off and all the electronics off of it because I don't need it. I'm actually thinking about taking this rack off too because I'm past the weight limit, so I'm not going to like throw a deer on there and haul it back. I might if I have to, but it's can't really haul a lot on it, so I don't know. But anyway, like I say, I'm probably going to replace the chain on mine at least because maybe that front sprocket. I've heard that sometimes them things, you can get ones that are better and hold onto the chain better and doesn't let it slip over. Like mine popped 2 or 3 times when it had gotten loose here a while back, and I heard it once or twice down there at Mount Wood. But like I said, I was ruffling this thing all day, and it didn't break. It just I noticed a rattle in there, and it was probably I noticed a rattle because it was rougher than what I normally was riding. But yeah, my bolts stayed tight. Theirs, which they didn't tighten up, got loose. So that just shows you right there. If you tighten your bolts, they stay tight. But anyway, that's about it. Just like freshening up the Taotao here. And when Allie's gets more on it, I'll work on hers. So anyway, y'all have a nice day, YouTubers. Later. Go-kart stopped running. I got a bunch of gunk out of the carburetor when I drained the float bowl. The inside of the tank's all rusted up. It's I'm just keep getting stuff down through it. There's a little screen in the bottom of it, but I don't think it's fine enough to catch everything, or something wrong with it. But I'd cleaned it before, cleaned out the tank. So I got to take the carburetor apart and clean it again. I'm probably going to drain the tank and see if I can find. Yeah, just walk right through. cats everywhere. uh, I want to try to get some kind of different filter and put in the tank. I got some little cartridge filters. Maybe try to use on this. It's either that or it's the valve clearance again. It seemed okay, but we'll see if what's going on with it. See, this thing stopped running a little while back, but it was backfired. It was popping and it was backfiring through the carburetor. And I had it apart, checked everything. You know, had the flywheel off. Thought maybe it had sheared a pin. It was, you know, that makes a little bit out of time. And then I checked the timing chain on it. Had everything ripped apart. Learned a lot about overhead cam engines. One of the last ditch effort, you know, I'd cleaned the carb several times, cleaned out everything. You know, just assembled the engine. You know, make sure it was in time, put it all back together. And it ended up being the valve clearance. Some older gentleman had on YouTube had said that you know, ought to check the valves. See, he said that you know, these engines had a lot of issues. If there's a little bit out of spec, you know, have issues and it wouldn't run. He was right, because that's what it was. So it's down again. It's not running. And then I changed the plug in little man's Supermark, and the choke lever totally just broke off. So there's no choke. I unhooked the cable, and you got to do it manually from down there. They sell them the controls like that, which I might replace it, but I don't know. This is easy to reach down there and hold the choke open for 10 or 15 seconds. Because when you're using that lever, it takes a lot longer, because it's complicated. It's just not a cable hooked in down there. There's like a thing, and it's spring loaded, and I think it returns before you can actually turn it off or something. I don't know. It's hard to explain it to you, but I think it'd be better off just to hold it open, because then I only got to hold it open for like 5 to 10 seconds, and then with that it takes a minute or two, and then you got to work it and see. No, it's starting to stall. It's just, I don't know. It's particular with the cable and that, but yeah, the plastic just, you know, crumbled apart. Because it broke and then it broke again. But anyway, the new plug in this makes it run a lot better. That's the problem with idle. I got to check my air filter on mine, because I swamped it down there. Sucked some water in through it. I may go ahead and change fluids in it, but got a lot of work to get done, and got to get on it today, guys. So y'all take it easy. I'll talk to you later. I put a new ignition on hers. I had to do some rewiring at the plug, but it got on there. I got her new tail light on. I got my bracket I made up for my I got that on there. Then I realized, you know what, I might not want to put that on both of them bolts, because it may have to move back and forth a little bit. We'll see how that works out. But mine is just right up against it. For my exhaust looking straighter, it's more crooked. But here's the inside of your now let's go here. That's threaded, so your lug nuts, your lug bolts will come in from the outside and tighten into your hub here, and then them bolts going from the outside, they got loose on me too. Mine, I have a little play in my A-arm already. Been having issues keeping my chain tight, and if I don't keep it tight, it will click over when I'm putting a lot of torque on it going up hills. But I am told that a better front sprocket might help me out there with that. So we'll see. But everything's been lubed up on these, and the front suspension moves a lot better. If you had some good quality shocks on these, I'd say they'd be pretty good off. I mean, they work a lot easier. But today I got to get Allie's put back together, and we got the torque converter on the Fox go-kart. So a lot of little work to do, a lot of things to get done. But I just wanted to let you know, another weak point on these, if you're heavy, is the front lower ball joints, which support all the weight. So redo your rear end like I showed in that other video, and definitely tear us apart and grease them up. And just, you know, be mindful of them. Check them every so often. I'll probably check them again next year and see, because if they pop off on the trail, then you're kind of like got it, you know, rough ride back home with 3 wheels. But like I said, Alley's was fine. So if you're skinny, you probably won't have an issue with them. But there's no grease in them. You know, I feel if you put some grease in them from the factory, or when you get it, go ahead, just disassemble the thing, paint it, and grease it, and tighten the bolts up. I think you'd be fine. Good to go. But anyway, that's here for our 74-hour review. And I think you know everything that we know. Like I said, her switch got raspy, and then it only kick on every once in a while. You'd had to turn it on and off 2 or 3 times before the brake lights would light up and it would actually start. You know, the starter wouldn't, it wasn't kicking it on. So $5 for that, and just more money and more money and more. You know, people say boats are like holes in the water. You're just throwing your money in the water. Well, ATVs, you're just kind of throwing your money in them. But I don't know. We'll see how these continue to hold up. So while I'm making these videos, I'm hoping that, you know, it'll either let you know, yeah, I can handle it. I got, you know, to do some work on them. I understand that. Or like, well, I don't want to mess with all that. I'll just, you know. So you can make your own decision whether they're worth it or not. To me, that guy was like, well, why did you get a 2-wheel drive down here at Mount Wood? And I'm like, well, I'm cheap. It's like I was amazed him that someone would be out here trying to ride a 2-wheel drive. Gratuitous kitty shot. This has been my little buddy down here today. He or she, I haven't looked yet. I don't look at cats. How many of you, I mean, a lot of people pick up a cat and that's the first thing they look at. It's like, that's kind of rude, you know? Like, pick you up and look at your, to tell if you're male or female. You know, to me, it's just, you know, anyway. It's like, if you have to ask. But, guy was like amazed that I bought a 2-wheel drive four-wheeler. But I went through every trail down there. You know, except, you know, I hate going up the real steep hills. I'm not saying that these didn't do it, because they hauled me up and down every hill. I got stuck a few times in big mud pits. But I went all over that park. I didn't go through the black trails, but I probably will eventually. But, yeah, 2-wheel drives will get you around. I mean, it ain't like it's, you know, a horrible disadvantage. But the thing of it is, everything in this garage, the go-kart and all the parts I put on it, all the parts in the 2 150s, and then these, I haven't paid $3,500 for all this. You know, and that got everyone something to ride. You know, Steve rides the go-karts, but, you know, we put my wife in there every once in a while too, because she won't ride a 4-wheeler. Her parents just don't do anything. I don't know. They were born to wait to die, if that makes any sense to you, you know. They don't do anything. Afraid to get on a boat, afraid to get on a 4-wheeler. It's like, you know, just sitting on a 4-wheeler ain't going to kill you. But anyway, someone made a comment on one of the videos and said, once you buy a bigger, better machine or something, that you send me the money. You know, I just don't have the money laying around. It hasn't been horrible so far with these. I mean, the engine seemed to be fine. Allie's had some issues with her CVT, which I think that's with the weights on there. But it gets tore apart this winter, and I'll check it. I'm probably going to go ahead and get new belts for them and slap them on there, because I know I've wore mine after dragging that go-kart and everything. But I'm heavy. I'm over its weight limit. You know, the website lies to you and says 364, which I'd be under. But the stickers on I took the stickers off mine. They're up there on the wall there in the back of the shop. But, you know, the stickers on the back fender says 198. Well, I go 270, so, you know, I'm expecting some problems with that. Hope you can see that. Let me get the screen on. Then it says maximum vehicle load 198 pounds, 90 kilograms, including weight of operator, cargo, and accessories. So, you know, they're a lightweight 4-wheeler. They only weigh a little over 300 pounds. I think they weigh like 320. I can pick them up and hunch them in and out and over. You know, and I like it because they're simple. I'm actually thinking about just taking the lights off of mine. They got the reverse and neutral light, but get rid of that and them switches. Just get rid of all that stuff you don't need. Anyway, later, YouTubers.